So as we all know, Indiana Jones 5 wasn't off to a good start both with the critics and with the audience members, with many critics leaving it a bad review and with many people actually boycotting even attending the film. And due to many fans actually boycotting the film, Indiana Jones 5 in its opening 24 hours only brought in $7.2 million at the box office.
Are you serious?
This is a horrible number, as it's actually lower than Fast X, Transformers Rise of the Beast, and The Flash. And it's also a record low for Indiana Jones, with the first 4 Indiana Jones movies all bringing in more than that in its first 24 hours, and so it's definitely not on a good track to try and break even at the box office. As it's been reported that the movie actually needs to bring in over $900 million to even break even, as the budget was $300 million, then there's also marketing costs, also actors involved in the project receive equity, so apparently the film needs to earn $900 million just to break even, and with the movie only bringing in $7.2 million in its opening 24 hours, and all the days following that will get smaller and smaller as it does with every movie that comes out, this movie will definitely not break even, and is probably going to come nowhere even close to breaking even for Disney. And I think there's many reasons that this movie isn't making a huge profit, and that this film is really underperforming at the box office, with the first being that nobody wanted to see a 5th Indiana Jones movie, especially seeing how long it's been since the 4th one, and the fact that Harrison Ford is now 84 years old. No one wanted to see an 84-year-old man completing stunts in a film and doing really slow action sequences that make no sense because people who are 25 and 30 years old should be able to catch him when driving or running after him. And so everyone knew that the movie wouldn't feel like an actual Indiana Jones film, so nobody wanted to see the film, and it had been so long that everyone lost interest and nobody was even asking for it. Yet in typical modern Disney and Lucasfilm fashion, they looked back at all the projects they had done before and said to themselves that they'll just do it again and put out the same regurgitated plot lines and storylines, and everyone will go and watch the film, when obviously that's not going to be the case, and that lack of originality is really taking a toll on the fans and audience members, with many people just being frustrated with Disney and especially Lucasfilm for not coming up with anything original, and so people just don't want to go and see the same projects over and over again. I mean, we've just had Fast X come out. There's been so many sequels lately within Hollywood that fans are just getting annoyed by it. And especially following The Little Mermaid, which was just a race swap live action remake, nobody wanted to see another remake of a film or another sequel. People wanted to see an original story, and the fact that Indiana Jones 5 was coming out with an 84-year-old Harrison Ford just turned a lot of people off. And I think another reason that this film isn't making a lot of money at the box office is due to another Mary Sue character trope in Helena Shaw, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Many people have seen this character before, as we've seen with Daisy Ridley's character in Star Wars, and many modern Disney films in general. Fans and audiences are just getting sick of seeing the same type of character over and over again, which just happened to be exactly like Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm. People are just tired of this character because it doesn't create for a good character arc or a good story in general, as these Mary Sue characters start off as perfect and name everyone else as the problem and blame everyone around them and can do absolutely no wrong, and then end the film in the exact same way. So when it comes down to a protagonist having zero character arc, it just makes the story boring, it makes the story unrelatable, and turns a lot of fans off because they're just sick of seeing the same boring character drilled down their throat over and over again, and they just didn't want to see it again in a great franchise like Indiana Jones. And there's also just no likability for these characters, because these characters have zero empathy, have zero struggle, no one can actually relate to them, and they just don't make for a good story. And when you have people in the Hollywood industry like Jenna Ortega, Elle Fanning, and Gal Gadot actually calling out these characters and saying that they box in women and don't create for good stories and good character arcs, you know that audience members are going to follow suit, and they're also going to turn away from these characters, because you know that no one actually likes them. So it shocks me that Disney continue to churn out characters like this, knowing that fans of the franchise, general movie-going public, and actresses in the Hollywood industry don't actually like it. It just blows my mind that they keep writing these types of characters. And a third reason that this film isn't bringing in much money is the fact that Indiana Jones has a huge fan base, and that fan base doesn't want to see their favorite franchise get completely ruined with a bad final movie, especially when the 4th movie was really shocking. To follow it up again with a 5th and bad movie to end it and to wrap up the franchise, it's only going to hurt the legacy of Indiana Jones, and many fans don't want to even see that movie because they don't want to ruin the legacy of that franchise in their own minds. The first 3 movies were amazing. It was one of the greatest trilogies that was ever made, and even though the 4th movie was bad, people were still able to look past that because it had 3 great movies that came before it. But with 2 bad movies to end the franchise, it really puts a dent in the legacy of Indiana Jones and the legacy of Harrison Ford's career, and many fans just didn't want to see that movie and didn't want their idea of Indiana Jones to be ruined by such a bad film that didn't represent what the franchise was in the beginning and doesn't actually honor the original vision by George Lucas and Steven Spielberg. And what I find really funny is that the main audience of Indiana Jones is male, yet Disney chose Indiana Jones to be another one of their franchises where they insert a female Mary Sue character that tears down the male character and tears down the male hero and makes him pathetic and wimpy and a pushover, and makes the female such a great positive character in the movie, because with most of the audience being men, they're not going to want to see that. And that's another contributing factor to why this movie's not making money at all, is because most men don't want to see their favorite male hero get completely ruined and have his character turned upside down and be the exact opposite of who he was in the start of the franchise. Because when you go back and you watch the first 3 Indiana Jones movies, he's a stoic character, he's a mentally tough and strong character, and he's a character that symbolizes hope, and he never gives up on anything, yet in the 5th movie, they just make him a completely hopeless wreck, who's taken a nihilistic approach to the whole world, doesn't care about anything, thinks everything is ruined and stuffed, and is about to retire from his favorite job. It just doesn't make sense. And with majority of the franchise's audiences being men, they just didn't want to see that happen to another male character when they've already seen that happen in Star Wars to Luke Skywalker. So it just blows my mind that Disney thought they could do that to Indiana Jones and actually make a profit and make $900 million to $1 billion off this film, knowing that they were actually attacking the very audience of that film. It just didn't make sense, and I just don't understand why Disney did that. And as a result of these poor films, Disney has lost over $800 million in their last 8 projects, which include movies like Elemental, The Little Mermaid, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Black Panther 2. Because one thing that these films all share in common is the fact that they were used as a cheap political gimmick to try and conjure up a narrative and to try and get bums in seats to like their film and give their movie and studio political status points, yet audiences could see right through that and just didn't even bother going to see the movie in the cinemas in the first place. So due to these films, Disney's almost lost $1 billion, and they're really paying the price for it, as we've seen with Disney doing multiple rounds of firing over 6,000 staff to try and save themselves over $7 billion. I mean, it's starting to get ridiculous, and we really see the bad position Disney's in, but in a way, they have no one else to blame but themselves for continuing to churn out projects that fans didn't want to see, and that directly attacks the audience base of their franchises and of their films. But the answer to their issues doesn't appear to be difficult, because the first answer would be to honor the fan base and to actually make movies that the fans want to see, and the second being just create original characters. Because if they were to go out of their way to create a great original female character, no one would be complaining. People only complain when you do a gender swap of a franchise that has already existed and has already built up its own fan base. Because if you go and you create an original female character that's really good, it's going to develop its own amazing fan base, and it's going to grow, and no one's actually going to attack that film because there's no reason to. It's a good movie, it's a good character, that's all Disney has to do. Because when you look at movies like Kill Bill and movies like Black Panther, no one attacked them for being racist or sexist because they were just good movies, and they were original. So if you make original projects and you make those films good and tell a good quality story, those movies will speak for themselves and develop their own great fan base, and you don't need to attack the fan base of a franchise that already existed. It's just pointless, and people can see through it as a cheap, surface-level political gimmick that they're trying to use to make money in a lazy way, and fans are sick of it, and fans just are done watching those types of films. So it doesn't appear to be a difficult fix, yet Disney continue to churn out the same projects over and over again, despite the fact that fans are telling them not to, and I don't see that stopping anytime soon, as they've just announced that they're making a live-action remake of Bambi, so we're probably going to have to deal with this for another few years. But what are your thoughts on this? Let me know down below in the comments. If you liked the video, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you you all on my next video.